Hello, and welcome to my presentation about the influence of anime on American culture. My name is Anirudh Shanker. Now, as someone who watches anime myself, choosing this topic for the project was too easy. However, before we dive into the material, let us first consider what anime is. Anime is a type of hand-drawn and computer-animated visual media of a story and sometimes even manga. Several Japanese manga have been made into anime, which have been further dubbed into English. Here on the thesis slide, anime, which originated in Japan, has had a big influence on people all over the world today. From shows to merchandise to even memes, it is clear that Japanese culture has been mixed into American culture itself. Anime has influenced celebrities, fashion, music, shows, and movies in Hollywood itself. Several celebrities have expressed their enjoyment of anime. Now, let's get into what anime has influenced. One of the first things is fashion. Here on the right-hand side, we see a picture of Michael B. Jordan wearing a jean jacket with a picture of Naruto on the back. Michael B. Jordan collaborated with Coach to create a Naruto-inspired clothing line, as you can see. On the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you can see a pair of Puma shoes being worn by Kevin Porter Jr. of the Houston Rockets, who was inspired to wear Naruto shoes. These are just two examples of how anime has influenced clothing. In several other places in the National Basketball Association, there have been players wearing Naruto jackets. For example, Milwaukee Bucks, Thanasis Antetokounmpo. Players watch anime on the sidelines, such as Philadelphia 76ers star Joel Embiid, and even making and wearing the shoes, as we see on Kevin Porter Jr. The next influence has been music. Music is actually one of the examples of a successful cultural exchange in which Japanese culture offered American culture something and American culture offered Japanese culture something. One example is rapper Kanye West, who was inspired by the anime Akira, seen here on the top right, in his song Stronger, which was released several years ago. Anime openings in general have a lot of rock and roll, as well as heavy metal influences. Here's an example of an opening from Kengan Ashura, which I'll play for a few moments.
Entertain me.
Just from the few seconds that I played, we can already see a lot of heavy metal influences. Even though Japan was influenced by American rock and roll back in the 1950s, which they started incorporating into their anime openings when anime started being created and released.
Entertain me.
The next influence came in American cartoons. Many American cartoons were inspired by Japanese anime, such as Avatar: The Last Airbender, Steven Universe, and even Ultimate Spider-Man. But there is an important distinction that I discovered while looking into what makes an anime an anime. The distinction is that cartoons were mainly influenced by anime and fall under the category of being an anime, but not all anime are cartoons. Think of anime as being the parent and cartoons being the child. However, there are risks that come when recreating anime, or if a Hollywood producer, cartoonist, anyone with a big impact is influenced by Japanese culture or anime and wants to adapt it and recreate something. One of those risks is possible whitewashing. Many years ago, Hollywood producers attempted to create a live action remake of the Japanese anime Ghost in the Shell with Scarlett Johansson. And this turned out to be a big issue in whitewashing. Now, while this is a risk and also one out of many things that turned out to be whitewashing, this is only one thing out of many. As we see from the shows here, these did not run into any risk of whitewashing. However, a few years ago, Avatar: The Last Airbender did have a live action movie made, which got many negative reviews because of whitewashing and because of a misrepresentation of the show by itself. So live action remakes, while yes, they are pretty great, they do run into the possibility of whitewashing because Japanese culture is being misrepresented and shown to a wide audience. In conclusion, overall, anime has had a profound impact on today's American culture and still continues to. Celebrities have incorporated anime into their fashion, musicians have been influenced, and American cartoons have been influenced by anime. Hollywood has also been influenced by anime, as we see from Ghost in the Shell. At the same time, anime openings have been influenced by rock and roll, as shown in the previous slide. Like I said previously, Japan started to incorporate rock and roll back in the 1950s, and we can see through several shows having a rock and roll or heavy metal opening that this impact and influence has not gone away. This is a prime example of a successful cultural exchange. We see a lot of Japanese and anime culture being influenced and being incorporated here in America, and we see an example of rock and roll and heavy metal and types of music being incorporated in Japan as well. Now, a lot of this influencing and impact has been made possible by developing technology, as well as how fast information can be spread around. We can find an anime in Japanese with either English subtitles or completely dubbed in English in a matter of minutes. Thank you for listening to my presentation.